Okay, maybe we can start then. So hello everybody, and thank you for joining us today. I am Luca Mazzei. I am the program director of the MSc in Chemical Process Engineering. And today I'm gonna present information about the program. And I just would like to tell you that this virtual open day, this presentation is gonna be recorded. And also that you have a Q&A box. In this Q&A box, you can ask questions, which we will then answer. But if you can do that at the end of the presentation, that would be better. So we can go through the presentation first, and then in the end, you can ask questions through the Q&A box, and I will answer them. Today, there is also Martin that is joining us. He is a past MSc student on this program, and he has kindly accepted to be today to help us to answer your questions as well. All right, so let me just start by saying, just one second, by saying a few words about UCL in general. So UCL is a global university and is London's research and teaching powerhouse. UCL was established over 180 years ago, and it is the first university in England that admitted students of any race, class, and religion, and also the first to welcome women on equal terms with men. It is also the first university in England to teach experimental science and modern European languages and laws. And today we're still providing excellent and relevant research and teaching to the whole world. Now, as I said, UCL is outstanding both at teaching and research, and we address the words problem in general. UCL is ranked the 8th university in the world's top 10 universities in the QS World University Rankings this year. And the UCL Institute of Education in particular has been ranked #1 for education. UCL is a top-rated university, also for research, and we were the top one in for research strength in the last research excellence framework that took place in 2014. Now, also Nobel Prizes have been awarded to 29 people at UCL that were either students or academics, and the most recent one, the most recent addition was in 2014, John O'Keefe in medicine. Now, let me say also a few words in general about our department. Our department is also research oriented. We perform cutting edge research in various fields, and our research is divided into 5 research groups that you can see here. So we have the catalysis and reaction engineering group, electrochemical engineering, multi-phase systems, product and process system engineering, and molecular and engineering thermodynamics. Moreover, we also have 3 research centers: the EPSRC Center for Nature-Inspired Engineering, the Center for Process Systems Engineering, and then the UCL Electrochemical Innovation Lab. So this is how our research groups and centers are structured. Research is a core activity in the department, as I said before, and we cover a very broad range of scales in our research, from the molecular scale all the way to the scale of complex industrial plants. Now, our aim is to create pioneering breakthroughs in science and technology and to find solutions to grand challenges related, for instance, to energy, materials, sustainable manufacturing, health, and environment. Now, if you would like to know a little bit more about our research, our academics and postdoctoral researchers have created a series of online taster lectures, so a series of videos that you can find on YouTube at the link that is shown here. So if you go there, you will find all these videos, and they cover many different topics. So for instance, again, nature-inspired chemical engineering, which is a unique research activity that we have in our department, or also batteries, fuel cells, particle technology, artificial intelligence, and many others. So I encourage you to have a look there. They are very interesting videos, not too long, but they will give you an idea of our research.
Luca, sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt. Can you click full screen on your presentation, please?
Yeah, fine.
Brilliant, thank you.
Yeah. So now let me say a few words now about the MSc itself. So the MSc in Chemical Process Engineering. Now, this is a one-year postgraduate program, and it has been designed for a broad range of students, really, students with different backgrounds coming from different disciplines. So not just for chemical engineers, but also for biochemical engineers, mechanical engineers, but also not necessarily engineers. So also for students whose first degree is chemistry or physics, material science, and even mathematics. And we provide the advanced training that is required to enter the chemical or even biochemical process industries. So now in this program, students will develop a knowledge of core chemical engineering topics and principles, and also their applications. But you will also learn various transferable skills, like for instance, team working and communication skills. So you will learn through the trainings that we will provide, you will learn to be creative, to be innovative in solving problems, and also in designing processes. Now, these problems very often are open-ended, and therefore it is important that you learn how to be creative and thinking outside the box and innovative in solving them. You will also learn to use the appropriate methods and scientific principles in addressing these problems and in solving them. You will learn how to analyze and interpret data. And then, if it is necessary, you will learn how to design experiments to obtain new data. And finally, you will learn to retrieve, analyze, and use information from a wide range of sources. Now, the MSc, as I said before, covers core chemical engineering subjects, but also offer a very broad range of optional modules that will allow you to customize your learning experience here on the program. And some of these modules are on non-chemical engineering topics, so they are also offered from other departments, different from chemical engineering. Now, all students will undertake a research project, which eventually culminates in a thesis that you will write and also a presentation and an oral examination. And the MSc offers two different routes with different compulsory and optional modules. Now, before saying a few words about the two routes that we offer, let me just say something about the Institution of Chemical Engineering, so the IChemE, and in particular about becoming a chartered chemical engineer. Now, becoming a chartered chemical engineer demonstrates your professional competence and also your commitment to the profession, to employers, policymakers, regulators, and the society. Now, if you become a chartered member of the IChemE, then you will also become a chartered chemical engineer, and this is the gold standard in chemical and process engineering. If you would like to know more about this, please just go to the IChemE website. So just Google IChemE, and then there you will find all the information about this. Now, how to become chartered? Well, first of all, you should acquire knowledge and understanding of chemical engineering. So you need to demonstrate an advanced depth and breadth knowledge of core chemical engineering and also on how to apply. So now if your degree program is fully accredited by the IChemE, and this has to be both at the undergraduate level and at the MSc level, then you meet all the required knowledge that is asked for becoming chartered, essentially. But that is not enough. So in addition to that, you also have to prove that you have acquired professional experience. So you also have to start working as a chemical engineer in the field of chemical engineering. You need to show that you have acquired experience in applying the knowledge that you got during your studies at university. And you will have to show responsibility for technical judgment and also a commitment to good practice and to continuing professional development. So continuing to study and learn about chemical engineering and about good practice. So both are necessary to become chartered. And again, if you would like to have more information, please visit the IChemE website. If you would like to know if your first degree, so your undergraduate degree, is accredited by the IChemE, then please, here I have provided the link that you can use, and so you can check whether your first degree, your undergraduate degree, is fully accredited by the IChemE. This is important because if it is, then with the MSc that we provide, which is also accredited, then you will be able eventually to become chartered, provided that, as I said, you start working for a certain number of years in the chemical engineering field. Now, having said that, let's get back to the routes that our program offers. We have two routes. So we have the advanced chemical engineering route and the research route. Now, they have been designed for different students with different backgrounds. So the advanced chemical engineering route is fully accredited by the IChemE, and it has been designed for students with a first degree in chemical engineering accredited by the IChemE who wish to become chartered. So if your first degree is in chemical engineering, if it is from a program that is fully accredited at the undergraduate level, if you do our MSc in chemical process engineering and you choose the advanced chemical engineering route, then you will have acquired all the knowledge that IChemE requires for you to become chartered. So then, provided that you start working in the field for a given number of years, you will be able to become a chartered chemical engineer. On the other hand, the research route is not accredited by the IChemE, and that is on purpose because this route has been designed for students without a first degree in chemical engineering or with a first degree in chemical engineering, but from a program that is not accredited by the IChemE. Now, in this case, you cannot become chartered because you don't have at the undergraduate level a degree in chemical engineering from a program that is fully accredited by the IChemE. And therefore, since you cannot become chartered, then we designed a route that is slightly more flexible, if you want, where you have more options in terms of optional modules that you can choose to customize your learning experience. So that is the difference between the two routes. At the end of the day, you are free to choose the route you prefer. So we are not going to impose that on any student, but it is important to have a clear idea about how these routes have been designed and for who. So both of them involve, as I said, a research project at the end. Now, the advanced chemical engineering route comprises 180 credits, and as I said, is accredited by the IChemE at F standard, means at master level. So combined with an IChemE accredited qualification at B standard, meaning at undergraduate level, this meets in full the academic requirements to become a chartered chemical engineer. Now, this route comprises 9 modules. One of these is the research project, which is a major module that is worth 60 credits. The other 8 are taught modules for a combined worth of 120 credits. Now, the research project is compulsory, and in addition, there are also 3 taught modules that are compulsory as well. The remaining 5 taught modules are optionals, so you can choose them as you wish. The research route also comprises 180 credits. It is not accredited by the IChemE, as we said before, and this is on purpose because it is intended for students, as I said, whose first degree is either not chemical engineering or it's chemical engineering, but from a program that is not accredited by the IChemE. All right. So in this case, it means that you cannot become a chartered chemical engineer. Now, also in this case, you would have 9 modules. One of these, again, would be the research project, and then there would be 8 taught modules, again, for a combined worth of 120 credits. Again, the research project is compulsory, but in this case, only 2 taught modules are compulsory and the remaining 6 are optional. So here you have a little bit more, as I said, of flexibility in designing your selection of modules. Now here, I just give you an idea of the modules that we offer. Here you see a selection of chemical engineering modules. Some of these might be compulsory and some of these might be optional, depending on the route that you choose. So we have many core chemical engineering subjects, like for instance, transport phenomena, or process heat transfer, or chemical reaction engineering, or separation processes, and so on. You also have some modules that are more either in depth or in breadth. So they are not really core, but also very relevant, like for instance, molecular thermodynamics, nature-inspired chemical engineering, or fluid particle systems. As I said before, there are also some modules that are not about chemical engineering. For instance, environmental systems, or water and wastewater treatment, or financial aspects of project engineering and contracting, entrepreneurship. These are offered by other departments, and they are optional modules that you can as well choose. Now, as I said, the number and type of compulsory and optional modules really depends on the route that you select. So if you would like to have more information about this, please refer to the website of this MSc. So you just Google UCL MSc Chemical Process Engineering, and there you will find more information about this. Now, if you do this MSc, what are you going to learn? Well, first of all, you're going to learn an in-depth knowledge of core chemical engineering subjects. You will learn how to use computers to design processes, and also for process operation and management. You will learn a lot about safety, and you will receive an in-depth training in hazard identification, quantification, and mitigation, and also about risk management and loss prevention. You will learn to design energy systems, in particular with emphasis on sustainability, on energy efficiency, and also on renewables. And you will learn in general to make decisions under uncertain scenarios and sometimes with limited data available, which is what happens when you work. And finally, you will be planning, conducting, and managing a complex research project that I mentioned to you is a very important part of this MSc. Now, getting back to the research project is very important and takes place during summer. Before starting the research project, during terms 1 and 2, we prepare you for starting the research project. So for this, we have designed 2 modules, the research skills module and the research methods qualitative. These are modules that are there to prepare you for the research project that happens during summer, all right, to provide all the skills that are needed for the research project. So they include different things. You will learn about ethics and plagiarism. You will learn how to carry out a literature search, how to carry out and write a literature review. And then you will learn how to deal with data analysis and statistics. And finally, how to prepare and to deliver presentations. So all these things are quite important during then the research project. And the research project will start, as I said, after term 1 and 2. So it will take place during summer. Now, during the research project, you will have an individual project on which you will learn, on which you will work under the supervision of an academic staff member of the department. Now, the projects that we offer are related to areas in which we are currently research active. And so the process works that each academic staff member will offer a certain number of projects. You will receive a list of projects. And then once you will receive this list with the project descriptions, you can have a look at those and decide which projects you're interested in the most. After that, you will have the chance to discuss these projects with us. So in order to get more information. And then in the end, you will tell us the three projects that you like the most. And then we will try our best to allocate one of these to you. This doesn't happen all the time, but we manage to do it most of the time. But in any case, whatever the project, the learning outcomes will be exactly the same. So now, during the project, the aim is to develop advanced skills to conduct a research project. And you will learn many skills in general. You will learn how to carry out a critical literature survey, which will take place at the beginning of the project. After that, depending on the project you select, you might learn how to design experiments or to develop models, because some projects might be experimental, some other projects might be numerical, theoretical, computational. So after that, in any case, you will collect and analyze data. This might be experimental data or numerical data. And then after that, you will make sense of the results that you obtained, and you will learn how to present and discuss them and to draw conclusions, and in the end, to offer recommendations clearly and concisely. So this is what the aims are. And in terms of learning outcomes, as I said, whatever the project, the learning outcomes will be met. And they are the following. You will be, well, first of all, you will be aware, you will learn how to carry out advanced research. So you will learn the research methods to do that. And then if it is relevant, you will learn about engineering or mathematical software. I mean, the specific depend really on the project that you will select. You will also learn to be able to conduct independent research, so to be an independent researcher, and to carry out a critical analysis of the results that you obtain. And then, very importantly, you will be trained at presenting your findings orally at the standard of a national or international conference, and then in your thesis, in presenting them in your thesis at the same level that we would expect for a publication in an international scientific journal. So now, let me say a few words about our teaching, and in particular, the hybrid teaching that we adopt. Also because of the pandemic we went through in the last 2 years. So at UCL, we have the idea of connected learning. So that means that whether you are at UCL or you're not, you will be able to join our academic community. So you will be able to connect with lecturers, with tutors, and with fellow students inside and outside the classroom, okay? And we offer various teaching activities. Some of these activities are live, or if you want, synchronous learning activities. That means that these activities are with group of students that meet with the academic staff member, the lecturer, and these meetings can be in person or online. But we would like to have them in person, of course, and they take place at a specific time. So they are timetabled. And they involve live interaction so that you can interact with the lecturer, but also with the other students. They may take place via Zoom, for instance, online, if it is necessary, but otherwise, the idea is to deliver them in person. And they are timetabled. Now, every student can expect to have at least one synchronous activity per module per week. Okay, and usually these activities are, well, either 1 hour or 2 hours, and they take place in small groups so that facilitates the interaction with the lecturer and the other students. In addition to that, we also have asynchronous learning activities. So we prepared many resources that you can use. Now, these asynchronous learning activities, they are activities that the students can engage with at the time of their choice. So they are not timetabled. They can do them whenever they would like. They take place online, and usually they are delivered via Moodle. So there is a selection of these. For instance, it could be online lectures that we have recorded in the format of videos. There could be quizzes, or for instance, further readings or tutorials. Okay, and all of these have been carefully designed by us. We developed all of these resources in the last years, many of those in response to the pandemic. But of course, we intend to keep on using them because they are quite valuable, and they have been very useful to our students. And therefore, we would like to continue to use them. But the idea is also, as I said before, to have the live learning activities where they are in face-to-face and you will interact with us in the lecture theaters. So now in 2022-23, we don't know how the situation is going to be, but in any case, we are well organized because we will be using this hybrid teaching, a combination, as I said, of face-to-face and online resources. Okay. Now, in terms of careers, well, our graduates can expect to work in many different sectors in the chemical or biochemical process engineering industries, and to play an important role in developing the technologies that are important to us and that make, that we use in everyday life, really. So there are various really many fields where you can end up working. So for instance, it could be in development of new materials or food processing or water treatment, or in pharmaceuticals, for instance, or in the area of transport and energy resources, and even to work at the front line addressing problems like climate change. So in terms of companies, the list could be quite long. For instance, yeah, I reported here a few, but really the fields where our students end up working are many. Now, there are here just examples of profiles of past MSc students on our program. Here, I just report a few of those, but you can find many of others online. And in the end, I will provide the link. But here you can have a look. But essentially, what the students really liked about our program is that there is a combination, again, of compulsory but also of optional modules that students can choose from. And so you will be able to customize, as I said, your learning experience. And also in terms of the research project that offers them the possibility really to conduct cutting-edge research on activities that the academic staff members are working on currently, and also to interact with PhD students or postdoctorate students that are working on those projects. So they found this really beneficial, and this freedom, to really pursue their own ideas during the research project in general was something that they really appreciated. Now, finally, just a few words about UCL accommodation. We have various resources here, like the halls of residence, the student houses, intercollege halls. So have a look online, have a look in particular at the UCL student accommodation online services. And you will, if you do, you will be able to, well, first of all, register. And after, you will be asked to complete and submit an application. Once you have done that, you will receive a confirmation. And keep in mind that the deadline for international students is the 30th of June. So London is really a beautiful city with so many activities, as you can see here in this slide. So it's also a very nice place to be studying. And we really look forward to seeing you here. Finally, just one last thing. Here there are links that are useful. So the first link is about the MSc, the web page of our MSc program, where you can find most of the information that I discussed today. Now, you will find in particular the routes and the modules that you will be able to study. But if you would like to know more about those modules, then we also have the UCL module catalog. And the second link that I provide is about that. So if you go there, you will be able to learn more about each specific module, what it is about, what you will be studying, and what the learning outcomes are. And finally, as I mentioned to you before, we have various profiles of past MSc students. So if you would like to have a look at those to see what those students did and why they liked the program, then please do that. And the third link that I have provided is about these profiles. And so here with this, I can stop the presentation. And now if you have questions, please feel free to ask them through the Q&A box that you can see on Zoom here at the bottom of the screen, and we will answer them. Okay, here I see, let me just see the first question. Okay, I mean, the first question is really about the application fee. I don't know the answer to that. To get the answer, I suggest that you contact UCL admissions because they would know about these details about admissions. I know the details about the program, but not about the application fee details. So if you would like to write to UCL admissions, then you should email them at admissions@ucl.ac.uk, and then they will be able to answer this question. All right. The second question mentions professional engineering license. I'm not sure what this is. I mean, I just mentioned the chartered, so I just mentioned the ICME and becoming a chartered member, a full member of the ICME, and then a chartered chemical engineering from the ICME, because that is the gold standard that we have. But I'm not familiar with the professional engineering license. I mean, if this is not related to the ICME, possibly you can, but I don't know the details about this. Now, with the research route program, is it possible to obtain chartership later after starting your career? No, because if to become a chartered chemical engineer, you need to acquire a certain knowledge of chemical engineering, which is sufficiently in depth and also in breadth. Now, for that, you need to have an undergraduate degree in chemical engineering from a program that is fully accredited by the ICME. And in addition to that, the MSc that we offer, for instance. So also the qualification at master level. If you don't have a first degree in chemical engineering, then you cannot become a chartered chemical engineering from the ICME. So during the research project, you will not be working in teams, but you will be working on an individual project alone, of course, under the supervision of the academic staff member and possibly of a PhD student or a PDRA, so a postdoctoral student. But in any case, of course, there's going to be the academic staff member that is the main supervisor. But there are some other modules where you will have the chance to work in teams, but not in the research project. That is individual project. So for sponsorship, you would have to find your own sponsor. We don't offer sponsorship ourselves. Do you have any other question? Of course, in case you have questions, but in this moment, well, in this moment you don't have them, but subsequently something comes up, feel free to write to me via email, and then I will answer those questions via email. So that's perfectly fine. Yeah.
So, hey everyone, I'm Mateen, currently a PhD student in Department of Chemical Engineering. I did the MSc program in 2017. I did a design project. I came from a chemistry background, so sort of took on a range of different modules, sort of balancing my chemistry learnings to chemical engineering. But if you've got any questions related to the course, any modules, feel free to put them in the Q&A box. I'd be more than happy to answer anything about uni life. Yeah, don't hesitate.
So yeah, as you can see, I said that before. I mean, the program that we design is really for a very broad selection of students from different backgrounds. So definitely not all the students on our MSc program are from a chemical engineering background. But as I said before, if that is the case, that you're coming from chemistry or from physics or any other discipline, then probably the best route for you would be the research route. The choice of route is up to you, so we are not going to force it. Of course, the advanced chemical engineering route is a little bit less flexible in terms of the optional modules that you can choose. And also there are some compulsory modules that are, well, advanced. So they might be a little bit challenging if your first degree is not chemical engineering. But the choice of route eventually is up to you. Now, you don't have to decide the route now. Okay, so you just apply for the MSc, and then once you start, during the first week of the program, there is the induction period, and then I will provide even more information about the different routes and the different modules that we offer. We also have short videos for every single module, and therefore you will have even more information to decide which route to choose and also which optional modules to choose. So all this is going to be done under guidance when you start the MSc. So you don't have to do it now. Well, so after the master program, are you going to be able to work in the field of chemical engineering without needing an undergraduate degree in chemical engineering? And of course, that depends on the employer, but usually the answer is yes, because some students really, this is what they did. They used, if you want, RMSc to go from the previous field that they were studying as an undergrad to the chemical engineering field with the aim to work as a chemical engineer. So that can be done. The only difference is, as I said, that eventually, even if you acquire experience as a chemical engineering, you cannot become chartered because you don't have a first degree, an undergraduate degree in chemical engineering. But that doesn't mean that you cannot work as a chemical engineer. So we don't have, if, for instance, you study a long time ago and now you want to get back to academia, we don't offer summer courses that can help you to get back essentially to academia. So this is something that you would have to do yourself. But in many of our, so all the modules that we offer, we don't assume necessarily that you are an expert in that topic. So in many of those, we really start from first principles and the basics. Also because, as I said, many of these modules are for students whose first degree not necessarily is chemical engineering. So we try to well, we have considered that aspect definitely in the offering. But no, we don't have summer short courses. Yes, so it is possible to work as a chemical engineer, even if you're not chartered. But as I said, being chartered, I mean, is the gold standard, but that doesn't mean that if you're not chartered, you cannot work as a chemical engineer. Indeed, during the first 4 or 5 years, you cannot be chartered because that is more or less the experience that is needed to become chartered anyway. So even if your first degree is chemical engineering, you have a master in chemical engineering, during the first 4 or 5 years, you will be working as a chemical engineer without being chartered. Then after that, if you fulfill all the requirements, the academic requirements to become chartered, then you will be able to apply. If you don't, you can keep on working, but you will not be able to become chartered. Maybe this question can be answered by Mark. How are we going to share this recording, Mark?
I believe the recording will be made available on demand on the on our program website, and I think it will be shared centrally. So yeah, just wait to hear back from UCL basically.
Okay, thank you. So do you have any other questions? Okay, if you don't, then we can stop here. But as I said before, in case you have other questions in the following days, feel free to email me and I will be able to answer those. Okay, so thank you very much again for taking the time to be with us today. And I hope that you will apply for the MSc and that I will be able to meet you actually in person next academic year. All right, thank you very much. And thank you, Martin, for helping us today.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark and Lizzie. And I think we can stop here then. Have a great day. Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.